What's up, everyone? Justin Graver and Justin Melo here, back again from the Music City Audible podcast with another exclusive YouTube breakdown. Today, we're breaking down the Coach of the Year award. Really quick, before we dive into it, I just want to say some narrative things. This award has most often gone to a coach over the last 10 years who has taken over a new team, a first-year coach, and taken them to new heights. So think Brian Daboll last year, Kevin Stefanski. As we look at the odds here, Dan Campbell's the favorite to win this award at plus 850. Right behind him, Sean Payton plus 900. Matt Eberflus plus 1100. Arthur Smith plus 1400, Robert Saleh plus 1500, Matt LaFleur plus 1600, and then you get into a lot more names. This one's interesting to me because what I just said doesn't apply to Dan Campbell, although I do think Dan Campbell has a good chance to win this award if the Lions take another step forward. But my fear is they took the step forward last year. Dan Campbell is only going to get so much credit if they get 2 or 3 wins better, even if they make the playoffs. Will it be enough after not winning it last year, after losing it to Brian Daboll? Will voters still want to vote for Dan Campbell? Because I feel like with Hard Knocks and everything, last year was his year to win it. He didn't do so. Who do you have winning this award?
Well, I'm disagreeing with you because I do have Dan Campbell winning this award, and he fits some of that criteria. Not all of it that you talked about because he's not in his first year with the Lions. I get all that. But when I think about Brian Daboll last year and the Giants making the playoffs, sort of a team that outperformed their expectations. And I know the Lions have some expectations entering this year. I don't think that will matter. If they live up to the expectations, which I think they will, that's making the playoffs for the first time in a very long time. That's winning the division. I think Dan Campbell will win the award. And when I look at that division, they've got the best roster in it. First of all, they finished strong last year. Believe they won 5 of their last 6, which they finished 9-8. They finished above 500 for the first time in multiple years. If they take that next step, get into the playoffs, which I think they will. Aaron Rodgers is no longer with the Green Bay Packers. The Minnesota Vikings, I think, are going to take a serious step backwards after winning the division last year. I don't think the Bears are ready. I've got the Detroit Lions winning the division, and if they do, I think Dan Campbell will be Coach of the Year.
Well, you almost convinced me there, but I'm still not picking Dan Campbell, but I think you make some great points. I'm going to go with Sean Payton. Again, this is a guy taking over a team for the first year, and I think narrative-wise, he has an easy path to winning this award. Now, I will caveat this by saying I don't believe in the Broncos, and I don't believe in Russell Wilson. However, if they prove people wrong, if Russell Wilson is just good compared to the disaster he was last year, if the Broncos are even just competing for this division, that will be tough to win. But if they finish 9-8 or something and second in the division, then I think this award will go to Sean Payton because he's going to get all the credit for turning around Russell Wilson, for bringing back the Broncos. I think that his offense is going to be a much better fit for what Russell Wilson can do. He's not going to be asked to read the middle of the field as much. He's going to be allowed to be himself. And I think that Sean Payton will get credit for that. So he's my pick, plus 900 odds. He's right behind Dan Campbell as the second heaviest favorite. But I think that just the narrative of taking over a new team is going to give him the edge in this category when it comes to the media voters.
I don't like it. I'm being honest with you. I don't. And I get where you're coming from with it. I do because they were so bad last year. If they turn it around, the AFC's a bloodbath. They're not getting into the playoffs. They're not going to be good enough to get into the playoffs. And if they're not, which I don't think they will be, he cannot win this award.
I honestly think they have a shot to get second in the division. I don't think they're going to beat the Chiefs, but I think they could finish better than the Chargers and finish better than the Raiders, who look like a disaster right now. We'll see what happens. I have faith that Sean Payton can be the narrative, the media darling to win this award. He has friends in the media. He spent a year in the media last year. So from that standpoint, I could also see it happening. And all that said, I don't believe in the Broncos. So I'm picking this based purely on combination of narrative and value. Do you have a sleeper for head coach of the year?
I do. It goes back, if you're a loyal following of this podcast and you watch the offensive rookie of the year conversation, I'm going to check the box what you said at the top of the clip here. Frank Reich with the Carolina Panthers, first year head coach, taking over a new team that was disastrous under Matt Rule, in all honesty. He's in a very winnable division in the NFC South. Tom Brady's no longer with the Bucs. The New Orleans Saints, we'll see you under the second year of Dennis Allen. They were very underwhelming since your pal Sean Payton left. And then finally, the Atlanta Falcons with Arthur Smith entering a do-or-die year with Desmond Ridder as a second-year quarterback. I think the Panthers have the most talented roster in the division. I think they have the most talented overall coaching staff. Coach Reich did a great job hiring Ejiro Evero to be his defensive coordinator, Thomas Brown to be the offensive coordinator, Deuce Staley, so many other great names on that offensive staff and the defensive staff, really. I love what the Panthers did this offseason. If they win the division, if they get into the playoffs, just like Brian Daboll surpassed everyone's expectations last year with the Giants, I think Frank Reich could have a very similar year with the Panthers. And as a Titans fan, if you're a Titans fan watching this video, wouldn't you love to see Frank Reich win Coach of the Year after the Colts fired him?
Yeah, that would be great. I like Frank Reich too. Great value, plus 2,200. I'm going with another first-time head coach as my sleeper. DeMeco Ryans is also plus 2,200. 2,200. I don't think the Texans are that good, but if DeMeco Ryans can turn their defense around and make this team competitive for the division, I don't even think they have to win it for him to win head coach of the year. I think they just have to look a lot better than they did last year. They have CJ Stroud coming in. If he plays at a higher level than Davis Mills, the offense could even be better, and they could end up as a 9-8 team. I don't think it's out of the question. DeMeco Ryans has a great reputation as a player's coach. He was great with the defense in San Francisco. I think he's going to step right into the Houston Texans and be a coach of the year level candidate. It's all going to be about, can the Texans win enough games to get him into the conversation? But if you look at what Brian Daboll did with the Giants last year, I think you're going to have a very similar narrative when it comes to changing the culture and making a team that had lost for many years become a winner. This is a chance for DeMeco Ryans to do that, and that's why I have him as my long shot at plus 2,200.
I don't think the Texans will be good enough to get him into that consideration. That's why I like my pick better of Frank Reich, but that makes sense because it was my pick. Frank Reich or Dan Campbell, write it in pen.
In pen. I think this is one of the harder awards to pick. So for me, I'm not going all in on any candidate. I'm sprinkling a little bit on a few different ones because you never know what's going to happen. Like Mike Vrabel won this award a couple of years ago because the Titans suffered the most injuries of any team in the history of the NFL, and he still got them the #1 seed in the AFC. You can't predict things like that, and that's the time when a coach that isn't taking over a new team will win. John Harbaugh won a few years ago just because of a legacy award for winning with the Baltimore Ravens. These kinds of things happen sometimes. This is a tough award to predict. I do think that everyone we mentioned today has a pretty good shot of winning. So if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We got one more awards video coming out, and we're going to have all kinds of other exclusive YouTube videos coming that are different from our podcast and Music City Audible, which you can subscribe to anywhere you listen to your podcast. All right, we'll be back soon. Until then, y'all stay safe out there, and Titan fan or not, tighten up.